In this tutorial, we'll make a shot with Unreal using an Autoshot workflow very similar to what we use for Blender. In Unreal, we'll want to make sure a couple of the plugins that we're going to use are enabled. So we'll go to Edit, Plugins. In the search bar, we're going to type Composure. Make sure the Composure is enabled. And we'll type in Image Plate. And we'll make sure Image Plate is enabled. You may need to restart your project if you just enabled those. Now we'll pick which scene locator in the Unreal scene we'll want to use as the reference scene locator for Autoshot. And this will tell Autoshot where to place the live action tracking origin in the virtual scene to match what you shot in JetSet. In the outliner, we'll type in SCE so we can see the various scene locators in the scene. And we're going to use Scene Loc Runner Center at the end of the carpet so we can see which one that is. It's right there. Okay. So now we're going to move back to Autoshot. Under the program dropdown, we're going to pick Unreal right here. And this will reconfigure the user interface to show the options that are specific to Unreal. And we're going to use one of the same day and takes that we've used before, take 17. For the Unreal workflow, we need to manually type in the name of the scene locator into the Use Scene Loc panel. So this would be Scene Loc Runner Center. Great. And for the type of run, we're going to use a shot, and we're going to use extracted PNGs for now. Right now, the Unreal workflow needs an image sequence to work with, and the PNG extraction is much faster than the EXR extraction. And we're going to leave the AI matte settings as none, as the Unreal keyer doesn't make use of AI mattes right now. And we'll leave the resolution at 1080. And down here, we're going to make sure we have Add Image Plane checked, and we'll uncheck Set Depth. And that will use the automatically calculated subject depth from JetSet to set the image plane distance from the virtual camera. And this works well in many situations, but as we can see, we can override that if we need to. And once you click Save and Run, it'll process the image files, and it'll give you a message that it's copied an Unreal command line to a clipboard and paste that into the Unreal Editor console. We'll flip back to Unreal and do that. And paste, hit return. And all right, fantastic. If we look in our content directory, it's made a new Autoshot subdirectory. And it's created a new subdirectory under that is named after the take. And this contains all of the new Unreal assets that were created as part of the script. Now we're going to double click My Sequence to make sure that it's open in Sequencer. Click on Sequencer. And we can click the camera icon in the Imported Camera Cuts tab. And that will lock the viewport camera to the animated camera track. So now we can see that our image plane has our live action camera and that our live action clip and tracked camera has been dropped into our scene. I'm going to extend the end frame to 800 and drag this over so that we can see the entire extent of the sequence. And I'll click a right arrow to move a frame and get him back. So you can see the spawnable named Cine Camera Actor here, which is being created in the sequence. And then if we can click here, we can see the image plate that's also part of this. All right. There's our image plate. And you'll see when we clicked on the image plate, half of our composite disappeared. That is because that is a single-sided material, and we'll correct that when we use our dedicated keyer material later. Now the camera here has an attached track here that is attached to Scene Locator Runner Center. And Scene Locator Runner Center has been inserted into the level sequence. And so all the pieces that we need are in the level sequence. And if you needed to change scene locators inside Unreal, you just drag and drop your scene locator into the level sequence and add an attached track to the camera and point to the new scene locator. But since we typed in our scene locator name in Autoshot, Autoshot did all the work for us. Well, we can see the sequence is animating now, so we can play forward and back. But we clearly want to key out the green screen. To do this, we're going to use a custom keyer material with an integrated despill and color correction. This is based on the excellent tutorial by Pixel Professor, where he borrows from the Composure keyer and color correction groups and integrates them into a single material. It's highly recommended. I'll put the link below. We'll go over to Content Browser. And this custom material is automatically copied into the Autoshot directory that was created when we ran the script earlier. And this material is slightly different from Pixel Professor's in that I added a despill node to remove the green edges from the key. So we're going to right-click this and create a material instance. And then we're going to move this into our take folder. And double-click on the take folder. You will likely want a different material instance for each separate green screen shot. So placing it into the associated take folder will help keep things organized. We're going to double-click the material instance, and that brings up our material. And we're going to want to click on the plane icon down here to make sure that we're seeing it on a planar surface. So to bring in our green screen footage, we're going to enable our color plate, and we're going to drag and drop our My Media texture onto that. And you can see we can already see our key material. Now we want to set our key color. And we're going to enable our key color box and click the material swatch. Then we're going to click the eyedropper. And we don't want to sample here because that's the post-keyed color. We actually want to come over here to our My Media texture. So we're looking at the original image. And we can move around and look for a reasonable color. You can see the key updating in the background a bit. And this looks like a reasonable place to start. All right. And from here, we can look at our key. And we can see that we have some transparency in the shirt. So we can try to get rid of some of that transparency. We can do a couple of adjustments of the original green color, try to bring some of that in. And we can tune our green color saturation a little bit and bring that in a little bit. And it's getting better. So let's click OK. And we can adjust several of the parameters here. And Pixel Professor goes into this in much more detail, but I'm going to enable and adjust the blue weight and red weight of these, looking at the, there we go, looking at the transparency of the shirt. We can, if we want to look at a different frame, we can move our frame over here. I'll click here to pick a problem area and then come back over here. There we go. And that updates our frame in here. And so we can adjust our alpha offset just a bit to bring in his shirt, and that's getting most of him and while retaining the shadows. Okay, so that's a good start. But now we want to see this in context of the scene. So we're going to click Save, and we'll minimize the material editor. We want to go back over to our content browser, and we're going to also click on our image plate, and we're going to drag and drop our custom color difference instance over to the material tab. And now our subject is being keyed in the scene correctly. All right, we're going to click on our sequencer and make sure that our camera cuts icon is clicked. So as we drag the playhead back and forth, we can see the keyer animating and him walking through the scene. Now we see an immediate problem, which is his feet are being cut off. By default, the image plate is set to the distance from the actor that JetSet measured during the take, using a combination of a focus and LiDAR. This works well for many cases, but in this case, the actor's feet are intersecting with the floor. We want to bring the image plate closer to the camera to fix that. So in the sequencer, we're going to scroll down, we're going to open up our image plate, open up the spinner next to image plate, open up the transform next to image plate, and we can see our location. We're going to open up the location spinner. And here we can see the X dimension of our image plate. And as we move back and forth, we can see the X value animating. And that's the distance of the image plate from the camera. To see this a little bit better, we're going to scroll up, unclick our camera cuts, hit F to frame the image plate, and then we can move around the image plate. And we can see that our image plate is simply being projected from the scenic camera actor here. Here's our scenic camera. And as we scroll through the image, you can see him walking through the scene. And you can see down here the distance that the plane is being set from the actor. It's about 280, 300 centimeters. And we'll reframe up this. So now we're going to click and drag around all the location keyframes. And we're going to delete those. All right, and our actor just disappeared. Now we're going to hit our up arrow to move to the first frame of the sequence. And we're going to highlight the location of the image plane track. And then we can come over to our details panel. And as we drag and drop our X location, we can see our plane reappearing in the scene. So we're going to move it out to a place just before it starts intersecting. Okay, we'll come back here. And it's about 260. Okay, great. So we're going to click our camera cuts icon again here to lock the camera to the scene. And now as we move through the scene, we can see that he is being correctly, that the feet are no longer being occluded, and that his shadow is being cast nicely on the ground. All right, great. Now we want to, since that value is working out well, we're going to go back to our transform, our image plate transform. We're going to pick the up arrow to go to frame 1, and we're going to click add a keyframe here, and that's going to add a keyframe. We'll actually add a keyframe to the whole location here. And that's going to add a keyframe for our location that sets the plane at 262 centimeters away from the camera. Now we can play through the whole scene. See him start to move. And you can see the shadows are correctly rendering onto the scene. Great. All right. In the next video, we'll look at different ways of saving this composite out to EXR sequences and videos.